Welcome back to another Service Management Leadership Podcast. We are continuing our sustainability conversation with Roman Jouravlev and Antonina Klentsova. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi, long time no
Nice to
see.
be back.
We've talked about what is and what isn't sustainability. I would like to dive in a little bit more, and because I like to make it personal. So why should we each care about sustainability? Somebody sitting out there in various countries, various types of roles, why should they care?
I'm a little bit afraid I will say something really obvious, or we all hear, newspapers and that. And today we are able to see quite a few animals in the forests and so on. Will our kids be able to see them? That's a big question, and a lot of proofs that they won't. We can travel and enjoy, to see other countries. Will our kids, or even we ourselves in 10 years, be able to do that? Maybe not, because of the social conflicts, right? So if we want to live happy life, owning money, breathing good air, and enjoying communication between people, that's exactly why we need to act now.
By very definition of sustainability, if we want to last long and succeed in what we do, then by definition, we need or want to be sustainable. If we want to keep, let's say, playing some kind of Russian roulette with our business, our life, our planet, then we can bother less about and care less about sustainability. But on a slightly more pragmatic, slightly more down to earth approach way, there are many people who care, and they are likely to be our customers, or our partners, or our shareholders, or prospective shareholders, investors, or the government that regulate our area. And if we want to meet their expectations, because they pay for our business, for our products, for our services, or because they are willing or less willing to work for us as employees or invest in our business as investors, then we need to know what are their expectations sustainability-wise, and whether we meet them now and what we should do in order to meet them tomorrow.
It reminds. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a very, very pragmatic and very practical thing. This is a requirement that pretty much every organization is facing now. We just need to qualify what exactly our requirements are, who are the key stakeholders, and how to make sure that we fit that requirement list.
It really reminds what was happening back in 1980s, that so-called quality revolution, when many organizations and businesses realize, if I'm not providing a certain quality for my product or services, I either will be out of business, or I change something in my business model and I stay relevant. That's the same happening now with sustainability. Some people say, it's such an advanced topic, we're ahead of time. No, we're not. We're behind of time already. And it just will become business as usual already in a few years. And yeah, just need it.
So I think,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Roman.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was just about to add that you asked why should we care, and well, all three of us, we work in service management. We work in IT for most of our professional time, and as IT people, we need to care. We need to think sustainability, because there is a very interesting and, I believe, exciting relationship between sustainability journey of an organization and what we sometimes call digital transformation. On one hand, in many cases, digital transformation is a way to be more sustainable. Think of some obvious thing. We are having this recording, this conversation using some digital technology. instead of traveling to one of the 3 different places on the planet where we are currently talking from. And that travel would take us time, money, and it would leave some footprint on the environment, and maybe not only in the environment. And probably it would just have no business case to travel to record a podcast, and it would remain unrecorded. But so we are able to achieve something in a more sustainable way, in a more efficient way by using technology. This is a very obvious example, but there are more less obvious, and it's an important consideration. On the other hand, our digital transformation is going ahead regardless of our sustainability mindset, sustainability thinking. And in fact, it should have that mindset and that thinking. So the flip side of this relationship is how to make sure that our digital transformation is sustainable, that what we are doing in a sustainable way. And this makes sustainability an extremely important topic for IT people. And this actually is why we decided to come up with that book, ITIL book on sustainability. We combined Axela's competency in information technology management and DEFRA competency in sustainability. The book was written together with the UK government agency, which is called Department for Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs. So basically UK Sustainability Department, UK Government Sustainability Department. And we combined these 2 worlds in order to ensure that they benefit from each other, that they enrich each other. So I believe for IT people, more than for many others, it's an important professional consideration.
I agree. And where I was going, and I'm sorry, one of the things I really enjoy about these conversations is it's like, as you mentioned, Roman, we're just sitting around having a conversation. So if we step on each other's toes, it's okay with me. But when I hear Antonina talk and you, Roman, talk, it reminds me in my life that the worst decisions I made were the ones I only thought very short term. And they may have had benefits in that short term, but long term, they were not great decisions. And I think that's where you're going is, hey, we might as well look at this through a long lens, a long view, and say, how do we ensure that we get there? How do we ensure we're in a good spot as a commercial organization or whatever organization or personally to make sure that we are able to get there, wherever there is? Does that seem reasonable?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Like, we look back through our lives, the older we get, and we think, I made some good decisions and some bad decisions. The bad decisions were always short-sighted.
And this Antonina, please go ahead.
Thank you, Roman. We're stepping again a bit, and thanks for letting me share. It's also really important. It's also really sustainable. We don't know what is right today because we're solving the problems that nobody solved before us. So what may look really right today may turn out to be a really bad decision tomorrow. Yes. And sustainable mindset is actually to be open-minded, really observing and getting the feedback, having a feedback loop and being able to change our direction. That's what is sustainable, not to choose and go. And, with plastic, some years ago, we all were so happy. Now we don't need to wash our dishes. We can just use the one-time reusable plastic, whatever, and throw them away. Well, it turned out not to be the best solution. Same with data today, right? We're all happy we can store those hundreds of pictures. While it's not sustainable, we still need to have informational hygiene and clean our old pictures because it brings us to carbon footprint as well. So, but it's okay. It's okay not to know. It's not okay not to change the course of actions when we see they're wrong.
Roman?
I just wanted to say that to be able to think long-term, to be able to plan long-term, and to sometimes put sustainability over short-term achievements is a luxury. And as a humanity and as a business or as a person, we can afford making choices in favor of more sustainable long-term decision rather than in favor of short-term quick win, only if we have enough, let's say, resource behind, if we have enough capability, if we have certain sense of urgency and understanding of the need for long-term, understanding that long-term, that if you think in generations, it is actually close enough. It's our responsibility to think of how next generations will be doing business or living on the planet or enjoying what like some return on investment that we have made in directly in financial form or in some other. So to be able to think long term, we need to be relatively stable, successful, and let's say reliable today. And this is why as civilization and as businesses and as states, we can focus on it now. If you think of, I don't know, medieval situation, people were focused on tomorrow's survival, in literally or figuratively, and they couldn't afford thinking long term. If you think of some people in poor countries that they just cannot think of investments, they cannot think of long-term achievements. So I believe that for sustainability to become an important part of our agenda, we needed these two conditions. First, the ability to think long-term, as I just described, and second, the sense of urgency that we have to think long-term because it's actually not so long. And this is important thing, and for businesses as well. Many organizations think that they cannot afford thinking sustainability because they need to focus on their P&L. And sometimes this is the case. It's quite high in the hierarchy pyramid, however you prefer, think of this pyramid. But it's important as soon as you are at a certain level to start thinking higher, to start thinking further.
And funny enough,
or we won't have any future. Yep.
Funny enough, I just want to add, because Roman, you mentioned that, you know, in developing countries, sometimes there is no way to think about long term. There is, but there, sometimes we see so much more sustainable solutions coming from there. Because if you think about innovations and benefits that business has, for example, it was just a recent talk I've heard. The example was in Silicon Valley. The best researchers and the best engineering mind think, how do I optimize my refrigerator so connected it to Wi-Fi so I can control it from the office? Quite a big innovation, right? But then in developing countries, this, you know, there was the engineer who was thinking, how do I create a refrigerator who will consume as little electricity as possible, maybe not use it at all because we have problem with electricity. And that's, you know, it's a different level of innovation, which is called the frugal innovations. So sometimes in those countries, because there is no other way unless you be creative and develop something, so they also searching for the ways, sometimes not consciously though, of course.
The planet level will actually created the problem of not being sustainable during the industrialization, when we went from rather sustainable pre-technology solutions into industrial solutions. We generally, as a humanity, we generally neglected the consequences of this. And this is what we are facing now as a post-industrial society.
And it hasn't been that long. My father grew up on a tenant farm without water and electricity. You know, that's not that long ago, right?
Yep.
And and I see stories, Antonina, to your point, of people in India in these poor areas that planted, you know, acres of trees, right? You know, there was nothing, and they were responsible for providing for the next generation and the next because somebody took them down. And so I think it's always great for us to talk about practical successes, because we all talk theory and everybody's a naysayer. So what are some of the success stories that either of you could share in terms of sustainability and how we can do better and how some people have done better?
Of course, there are a lot of examples like, little optimizations, so like people use less plastic or whatsoever. The examples that I really have in mind in digital world, for example, if we take data centers and cryptocurrency mining, that's the area that causes a lot of, first of all, electricity consumption, then the heating and carbon footprint is quite big there. And there are already a few companies around the world who help to optimize that. And there was this one of the little startups appeared, Bixbit, who actually uses the immersion cooling, the one that helps to optimize data centers work a lot. And there are a few examples around Europe and the world at the moment. So it's a little bit big thing that optimizes digital business. The other thing that I have in mind, and it appears more and more, for example, AWS, Amazon Web Services, they help us to analyze what's my level of consumption, because we're all in applications nowadays, right? So product-led organization is almost the leading one around the world. But then how well are we using our data? How well we optimize our codes? Do they force us to consume more electricity or not? So there are already tools that help us to understand that. And if that brings the example to you.
I would add a couple of examples, but before going to them, I have to say, as we discussed last time, sustainability journey is a journey. So there is no organization that can say, okay, we achieved sustainability. But there are organizations that can reasonably say we improved our sustainability, our indicators, we achieved our objectives for this period. And by doing that, we contributed to certain global goals. Usually we use United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a high level of that goals cascade that goes down to organizations and their initiatives. I will give one very particular example. I just checked right now as we're talking on my phone. This is an app of the Royal Mail. I am in the UK, so I use Royal Mail quite often. I open it and I have this little green banner here saying, we have by far the lowest reported carbon footprint per parcel delivery in the UK. And sometimes, because these banners change, they actually provide some numbers, and for them, this is an issue because they have, as far as I remember, the largest vehicle fleet in the UK, and they need to make sure that this fleet doesn't produce unnecessary carbon footprint. So the last mile of delivery for them is usually on foot. So they don't use these door-to-door delivery cars, and they use people with trolleys instead. In terms of sustainability for environmental and social, because they provide jobs to these local people, and economic, and they provide some sense of community. So altogether, that may be a good contribution to their sustainability objectives. Another example that came to my mind immediately is not specific enough, apologies for this, but you can easily Google many specific examples of this. When we were looking for good practices of sustainability, of achieving sustainability for the book, one of the tools, or not software tools, but one of the methods, if you like, was so-called integrated reporting. So more and more organizations, they produce and publish publicly so-called integrated reports, where they inform interested parties, and first of all, their shareholders, about their status and progress, not only on the financial area, but also on the social and environmental areas. So you can Google integrated report and then the just example, or maybe name of the company you're interested in. Think of any big company, and most likely there will be a published integrated report. This changes the perspective of the not only producers but also readers of the report. And similarly, it's quite an exotic success story probably, but similar approach has more and more been taken on in countries at the country level. And countries, I believe the pioneering country here was New Zealand. I may be wrong, but that's how I remember this. They started reporting on the country status and progress, focusing not only on financial measures such as GDP, but also on more generic measures such as, let's say, citizens' happiness index. And that also is built from the three pillars that we mentioned previously. This includes economic, social, and environmental aspects. And I believe that growing uptake of these holistic approaches are highlighting importance of these areas and moving us from purely financial or purely environmental focus to more holistic focus is very important. And it's really encouraging to see the growing number of companies and even countries taking this route.
So let me throw in two examples I thought of as you all, and I'm talking macro. The move to telemedicine gets people not in their cars driving to their doctors, in the use of online banking versus driving, sitting in the teller window, at least here in the US, and doing banking in person. Just even those two shifts, even if for economic reasons, helps the sustainability of their business economically and environmentally. Are those, is that good?
Very good example.
That's a very good example. It does create certain challenges at the social level, employment challenges, for instance.
Right.
But it also, if you look at the wider scope, it also provides certain employment opportunities for remote workers, for working from home, for doing certain things that people couldn't do without moving their home or commuting for hours. And if you think of the very instance of commuting, then this is one very big reason to not come back to offices for many organizations. It's even if we consider the environmental and other impact of me working from home and multiply it by people working from home and compare this to the scenario of all those people going into the office, most likely the office scenario will be more damaging to the environment. And also think of cost of commuting and waste of time and spread of diseases and all other benefits or disbenefits of this. So it's always a complex issue, but generally your example is brilliant also because it shows how digital transformation supports sustainability. Yep. Because this is an effect of digitalization of banking, retail, and or medicine and other industries.
It's interesting. I also want to remind us something that we discussed before: people, yes. Right? So all examples that we showed are not all, but still, social pillar of sustainability is presented in many organizations already. It's like if your organization provide enough safe space for people to discuss when they don't like something, or are they safe enough to say about their failures, or are women brave enough to say something against the decision taken? Are they safe enough to talk about their gender or even sexuality? It's all also about sustainability because it leads to the respect, it leads to the open-mindedness and innovations in a sense. So yeah, those are, and we have a lot of examples in the market already.
Yes. All right. So as we close, any parting words, and we'll start with you, Antonina, and we thank you both for being on the podcast, both episodes. Those of you on LinkedIn or wherever, make sure you connect with Antonina Klentsova, Roman Jouravlev. Hopefully I did not mispronounce too poorly, but the last name like T for Tiller, I'm kind of used to it, but I don't want to project that everybody's used to it. And so, Antonina, what are some parting words for you?
Some parting words. Well, let's just do it. I would say like that.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge. How about you, Roman?
I would second that. This is something that everyone can do something about at their personal level. At work, at home, starting with very little deeds. And this is a very important principle for sustainability. It's global, think globally, act locally, because this is like everyone's concern. And if you are good at it at personal level, you have good chances to succeed in this at business level as well.
Yep. And we're all in it together. That's the only thing I would say closing
Absolutely.
is we're all on this spinning rock together, and we have to figure out how to get along, make sure the spinning rock lasts a long time, and how do we help each other in our short spans on this life? How do we help each other?
Precisely.
Yep.
So thank you all
Together,
for
yes.
joining us. Thank you all for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much.
Thank you, a
all.
pleasure, and
Bye.
bye.
Pleasure.
All the best.
Bye, everyone.